Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's Wayne again, and I got some more FX30 footage. This time it's about the photos from the camera. If you're a hybrid shooter like myself, you probably saw the FX30 presentation and decided this is a camera that you want to get. There are a lot of features in this camera that appeal to a lot of hybrid shooters who are looking to step up their video game. Some of the features that caught my attention is the fact that, for one, this camera had a built-in fan. Normally, if you're shooting for a long period of time, your camera can overheat. Having a built-in fan is very useful. The second thing about this camera that I liked was the fact that it was a very small form factor, but it actually had some video capabilities from Sony's bigger cameras. Saying it's a smaller form factor, today, we're looking for cameras that are lighter and actually can perform as well as the older DSLRs that we had. Personally speaking, I came from the Nikon side, shooting a lot of their prosumer cameras, the 200, 300, 500, so on. I'm also familiar with shooting with a camera that has a crop sensor, which the FX30 also has a crop sensor. So this didn't scare me from getting this camera. We all know to talk about full frame versus crop sensor, and full frame lets in more light. Yes, that's true. Granted, there are some downsides when you are shooting with a crop sensor camera. If you like creamy bokeh, that's something you're not going to get out of this camera with every lens. If you put a 1.4, 1.2 lens on it, you'll get some good bokeh out of it. There are other lens manufacturers that are coming out with different lenses that are giving us better than what Sony can give. Sigma, for example. Now, in saying that, I did pick up all Sony lenses. I got the 11 1.8, the 15 1.4, which I really like when it comes to, dropping out the background and focus on your subject. Getting that creamy bokeh look is great. And I also got the 16 to 35 f4. I would have wanted the f2.8, but that thing just was too big, and I kind of like the smaller look. This just works. And coming from DSLRs, where I used to love having that bigger look with the battery on the bottom, and it's nice and beefy, and it's a healthy camera to carry around. I love that. But getting older, having something smaller that can perform similarly, that works for me as well. Traveling, yes, this is gonna cut down a lot of the weight from my old Nikon setup. What I want to talk about today is the photo features of this camera. Now, I've not seen many videos talking about the photo features of this camera. And when I say features, the main thing for me is, does it take great photographs? When I first boot up the camera and I started going through the menus, I saw that it has the typical PSAM mode or PASM mode. So program, shutter, aperture, and manual mode. A lot of times I shoot in manual mode. The thing that I've missed about a hybrid camera or standard photography camera is having a viewfinder to look through. With the lack of an EVF, you want the screen to be better. So it took me a while to decide whether or not I wanted to get this camera. While it was still in pre-order mode, I looked at a lot of videos, and not many people talk much about the screen. But I do know from past experience that Sony's screen hasn't been that great. But to my surprise, this one actually turned out to be pretty good. It's not as bright as I would have liked it to be in standard mode, but you can adjust it. That sunny mode actually does help when you're shooting outside. And one of my main concerns is actually, how is it going to hold up considering it's a screen on the device? So far, I can say that it's been doing pretty well. I've actually gotten used to composing and shooting just by looking at the screen. And this has been aided by the fact that I've been using my iPhone to shoot a lot more. In my older days, coming from photography, shooting film with a camera that didn't have any screen on the back of it, you compose your shot looking through that little square on the top of the camera, the viewfinder. This camera has no viewfinder, none, but it has a screen. The screen is not very big, which is also one of my other concerns, but I actually got used to using it. That means I have to pull out my glasses more when I'm shooting to compose. That's a con, but at the same time, having a decent screen that you can see what you're actually taking is an excellent thing. While it's not a full-fledged photo camera, it actually does take some pretty good stills. Being that it is 26 megapixels, that appealed to me. I started out taking JPEGs just to see how they look, and they look pretty decent. But I can tell you that I've been shooting in HDR mode on my iPhone, and those photos look really nice. I've actually done it with the Z6 as well, but the Z6 is a little bit different because it requires the camera to take 3 pictures to give you that high dynamic range photo. This one shot, gives it all to you. Fantastic. Problem is, when I started to review the pictures on my computer, they didn't look like my Nikon pictures. They just didn't have that pop. So for a while I thought, well, you know, it takes pictures, it's okay, it's decent, you know, and I showed some in my other videos. What I didn't realize was that I was going to need the Catalyst software to help with that. So the ImageNet software actually allows you to do a bit of editing, but it's not as straightforward as you think. When I did the export from the HEIF file over to JPEG, even though they look pretty good when you looked at the conversion side by side, depending on what you were shooting, if you had like bright sunlight, the HDR conversion just didn't look that good. So what I ended up doing was exporting the files into a TIFF format and then edit the TIFF format, and I actually get a better look. Check out these examples.
Let's just take a ride along the bay. We don't need to work, we can sit around and play. I've been waiting for so long to get away. Baby, don't hold back, all you gotta do is say, what would you like to be satisfied with me?
You see the difference, right? My style of photography is capturing what I see exactly as it is. I usually don't like to tweak it too much. I don't want to mess with the colors. I want to get the colors that I'm seeing. The sky, if it's kind of faded, okay. It's not every day that's going to be bright blue. That's what I want to get. I know you can tweak things because I've been tweaking things for some time, but I kind of would like to stick as close to natural as one can get.
I know you got problems, know you at the bottom, know you took a loss today. Everybody want bottles, living for a throttle, you just want bottle today. Tell me joy, west side, I've been trying to find it before I go all the way. Cause everybody got problems, everybody starving, but don't you go off today, yeah. Don't you go off now. That's right.
The files from the FX30 have impressed me. I'm very happy with this camera as far as it does for photography. Would I like something I can shoot multiple shots? Certainly. Would I like more features in the photography stuff? Yes. But I've decided to keep my Z6 too, and maybe I'll move on to something else in the future, who knows. The FX30 is actually doing pretty good as a photo camera. If you're a hybrid shooter and you were thinking about this camera and you're wondering whether or not you should pick one up, let me say this. Don't worry about it, go ahead and get it. On the photography side, this camera performs really well. Yes, you're going to miss some of those features that you've had on your hybrid camera, but if you like photography and you like taking things slow, this works well. If you're a content creator and you decide that you want to just do JPEGs, it'll do that as well. But I think most people, when they're shooting, you know, eventually you want to grow with a camera. Having that manual mode actually helps. It's not a point and shoot. It actually has some functionality to allow you to take some good photographs. Hopefully the information I provided in this video will help you to make a decision whether or not to pick up the FX30. Again, as a hybrid shooter, you want to do some photos, it does it. If you want to shoot videos, that's what it really was designed for. But the capabilities are there to do both. You're not going to be shortchanged by getting this camera. I hope you liked the video. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. If you have any comments about what I've talked about, also let me know. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And remember, give the video a thumbs up once you watched it. I'll see you in the next one.
Shine bright.